think years ago I was a huge fan of the book, and I knew that we tried to make the movie a couple different times through the years, and it never came together. I was off shooting gangs in New York. I read the script. That Jeff Nathanson did an unbelievable job of adapting it into a screenplay, which was very hard to do. Then I basically started looking for a director to be involved, and I didn't even think of Mr. Spielberg as an option. I didn't even think that he would be interested in it.
I'm proud to be able to say that I feel that Leo hired me more than I hired Leo. Leo was already set to portray Frank. I had just come off of Minority Report, just finished shooting it, and I was sort of in a dark place, having made 2 semi-dark pictures back to back, and thought, wow, what a breath of fresh air this will be for me. And I really sometimes enjoy that whiplash sensation going from Jurassic Park to Schindler's List, and I had a chance now to go from Minority Report to Catch Me If You Can. So selfishly, I looked at this story as an opportunity for me to take a really great creative vacation and work with a young man who I've always admired, who one day was kind enough, just based on my calling as agent, to send my daughter, his biggest fan, an autographed picture. And, and that meant a lot in my family, and made me a hero amongst my kids. And I got DiCaprio's signature on a picture for my daughter, who was at the time about 7 years old. I've always wanted to work with Leo, so this was a really great opportunity to come over to his house and had a great meeting, and decided at that moment that we were excited to work together.
You gonna take roll every night? Yes, I will, Dr. Ashland. And if you're gonna be late, I suggest you bring a note. I don't think there's been many movies about con artists, and especially a con artist that was 18 years old and probably the biggest bank robber of all time right after he graduated high school. For an actor, it's about the art of misdirection and how he's able to make somebody, for example, concentrate on the steak dinner as opposed to the phony check that he's about to pass. And I think those are all fantastic elements for an actor to play. I'm calling the other side of the hotel. They got suites that face the park.
The studio called and asked if I would mind speaking to Leo on the telephone for a few minutes. And I said, of course not. And so they said, he'll call you at home this evening. And he was so interested in the character. He said, I've read the book, I've read the script, what I want to know is you. What did you feel when you did this? How did you feel about this? I was very impressed with that. So when I hung up from the phone, I was very excited that he was going to play the part. But then about a few months later, he called again and said, would you mind spending some time with me? I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that. So I went out, literally spent about 3 days with Leo at his home. Constantly, he was following me around with a recorder. He was taking notes.
I met with Frank, who is quite an interesting person. I said this before, but you don't think he would steal a postage stamp. He looks as innocent as a school teacher. He looks like the sweetest, most unassuming man you'd ever meet. But he has a way of engaging you with his eye contact, with his energy and his intelligence. I remember him coming to set one day, and the whole crew basically took their own spontaneous lunch, even though we were in the middle of a shot, and started listening to Frank Abagnale talk about all of his cons for half an hour, and all of a sudden Steven came and said, what the hell's going on? What are you guys doing? We gotta get back to work. He has that way about him, and I think the most interesting thing about him is that a lot of his way of seducing people was very unconscious. And the thing that I brought to the character was his subtlety in the way he sort of switched accents to make him seem more trustworthy, or to make him seem higher up on the totem pole of success. Work on my accent.
Play back the other camera, please.
At a certain point, you get enough of your information from the real life person, and then you have to go off on your own and create that character and become that character. I wanted to let that character have a life of its own.
This is a hospital, ladies, not a sorority.
I want the audience to be carried along with him as he discovered these things and made mistakes along the way in impersonating people. I didn't want to be too perfect, because I don't think Frank was. I think he got by on his etiquette, his charm, his personalities, and his ability to misdirect people to think about something else in situations, rather than how perfect he acted as a lawyer or as a pilot or as a doctor.
He's a very inventive actor, and he gets a lot of ideas, as I do, and so we sort of met halfway on many things and had a great time doing it.
You really think I have to go? That's good.
That's good, wasn't it?
That's good.
Leo likes to watch himself on the monitor between takes. He likes to watch his playbacks. He's more critical of himself than even I am. And I remember every time we finished a series of takes, maybe 7 or 8 takes, I'd be really happy. I'd say, okay, let's move on. Leo would say, just one more for the Gipper. And then what Leo would do is he'd do the last take, and he'd throw all caution to the wind with the way he would approach this take that was for the Gipper, meaning I was free to ignore it, to laugh at it, to say, Leo, you're over the top. We'll never use that in a movie. And 80% of the time, those takes where he felt he was free, under no pressure to perform anymore because he was satisfied with what he had done on take maybe 5 and take 7. But on take 8, he'd throw caution to the wind, and very often that's the take that would wind up in the movie. You know, there's some takes, Leo, you just know in your mind. It's in the picture. You just know it.
Shouldn't you go?
No. They have a staff doctor in the emergency room. We'll be fine.